Hi, I'm here at the Tarragon Theatre here in Toronto. I'm here with a Canadian playwright who's very prolific in all of her writing, Hannah Moscovitch. Hannah, the first question I have to ask you, when you're 18 years old, you went over to Golan Heights to live in one of the kibbutz. Could you talk a little bit about your experience during that time?
I went, like a lot of young people do, to see what Israel was like when I was 18, and I spent a lot of time weeding in the fields. That was the job I did. Got up at 4:45 a.m. and got on the tractor, had breakfast at 9 in the dining hall, and I did that for 4 months. And over the course of that time, I got to see a little bit of Israel and take in a little bit about the politics of the situation.
And your father is Romanian, Ukrainian, and your mother is English, Irish, Catholic. How do you feel that upbringing influenced you when you came for writing your play, East Berlin?
Oh, well, I think, I'm always writing about my heritage one way or another. It's hard to escape it, and East Berlin deals with the fact that you can't escape history, you can't escape your family. So it's apt in a way. I mean, my father's family were all Jewish, and the ones who stayed in the Ukraine were killed in the Holocaust, and the ones who came to Canada were not. We got the last letter from them in 1941, so East Berlin to some degree deals with, though it's from the perspective of the son of a Nazi, deals to some degree with the legacy of the Holocaust. And so, of course, it is about my family.
And what were some of when you're doing your research for the East Berlin play, what were some of the things that were shared in what you're reading from a standpoint of one of the relatives who had a family member that was a member of the SS, how they tried to deny their relatives' involvement?
Well, when I was in Israel, I met a young man named Rudy who was 18 years old, and his grandfather was in the SS, and he was in Israel at the same time that I was on the same kibbutz because of his grandfather. And I found that that spoke about how powerful the history was, that it was his grandfather and it had moved him across continents because he wanted to do something like redeem his grandfather's sins. Something like that was at work in him. And he was this, very German-looking kid. He was blonde and blue-eyed, and he stood out like crazy in the Golan Heights. Part of my research for East Berlin was meeting him, and from him came the inspiration for the play. And then, I researched, I read a lot of the accounts of the children of Nazis, and they lived the most extreme lives, basically. It's incredibly polarized. They either were very supportive of their parents' ideologies, or they were very much against them. And or there was so there was either sort of extreme denial or extreme guilt. One or the other seemed to take hold of them, and I became fascinated by their experiences and how they tried to outrun history or accept it.
And you were also nominated for the Governor General's Award with that play too. I think we were really worried about it when I put it up. I spent a lot of time lying on the floor in Richard Rose's office, who's the artistic director here, thinking, nobody's going to like this play. It's from the perspective of the child of a Nazi. But then in the end, we had a crazy amount of audience response to it, and it got remounted here twice. It did 3 sold-out runs here, so a total of 18 weeks, which is a lot. For a play. So somehow it just hit the zeitgeist, or the audience wanted to see that story at that time. And another play that you were doing, the current play is This Is War. With Canada, it's been so polarized with people two camps: the ones that are for the Afghanistan war and the ones that are against it. How do you feel that your play was able to transcend both camps and then show the play from the standpoint of a Canadian soldier? Well, yeah, I mean, I somehow, for me, I was less interested in that. I mean, you know, we all have our political thoughts about the war. But I was less interested in that. I actually was really interested in the fact that we were about to be, when I was writing the play, the war was still ongoing for Canadians. Obviously, it's still ongoing without our combat participation. But I was really interested in the fact that we were going to be a post-war society and that we were going to count veterans of a modern coalition desert war as part of our numbers here in Canada, and that their experiences were extreme and original and painful and stunning, and that no one was telling those stories. And I think I got mad. I really felt like it was important to talk about the experiences of these people, these Canadians, our soldiers, who were fighting a war in our name, and then paying the price in physical and operational stress-based injuries.
And you're also involved with the CBC radio production. I think it was called Afghanistan. And there was one soldier, a sergeant who remained nameless, that you were talking to with an advisor of this CBC program. And there was something that in a prior interview you were talking about something that he mentioned to you. I was wondering actually if you could share briefly about, I think it's how he felt the first time he pulled his weapon at someone else.
Yeah, he said that you make the call in the moment that you think you can live with. And what interested me about that was that it seemed so far removed from any political agenda whatsoever. That, in fact, once you are in the arena of war, it's a kill or be killed situation. And so you're just trying to make a call that will keep you alive and that will keep you having integrity, physically and morally. So that's what I felt like got my attention, that tweaked my brain in a way that I wanted to tell his story.
And what are kind of some of the feedback that you're receiving from the veteran community in regards to This Is War, and also in your prior involvement in that CBC radio show?
Well, we're obviously very. I've never been to Afghanistan. I've just spent. I've had this unique access to veterans and soldiers who've been coming back from Pandora because of my involvement in a CBC radio show for 5 years. And obviously you want to do, comprehensive research in order to be able to be in a position where you can respectfully convey someone else's experiences, right? Especially with this war where it is so extreme and unique of human experience. So I really wanted to do every possible due diligence and do as much research in order to be able to feel for myself like I could legitimately write about it. But yeah, and of course then we're the most nervous when veterans come and see the work. Just because we hope that we're in the right ballpark. But yeah, during previews, a major who is in the Canadian Forces and who served in Afghanistan wrote us a comment saying, on a comment card saying, "This is what it is like in Afghanistan," and we had a hallelujah moment. We had a relief moment. Yeah. So, I hope that I tried really hard.
And, what was the biggest person that influenced you the most in your life? One question I love asking people, because everyone has a different answer to it. What's the message that you feel that this individual has instilled upon you that you're still following to this very day?
Oh, my God. That's so hard because there's just so many influences in your life, but honestly, I think it's my parents, who, my dear parents who, thought I was a writer long before anyone else did. And you need that. You need people to support you. If you're going to invent yourself as anything, you need someone to be like, yeah, I think that's a good idea. And usually that's going to be, your parents, you know? And my parents are 100% on my side, which is really awesome if you win that lottery and get parents who are like that, you know?
And, you know, with the Canadian, you know, how hard it is for artists in Canada, what kind of points do you want to share with people that are up-and-coming playwriters, you know, so that they want to express their craft, but they want to find a way to actually be able to maybe support themselves at the same time? What kind of advice could you give them?
Well, I bartended for a good 4.5, 5 years before I was able to support myself as a writer completely. So yeah, I think it's really about rigor in the end. It's about, you know, it's about relentless commitment to it, because, you know, if you really want it, and I mean, there's lots and lots of space for good writers in theater and in all art forms that tell stories. You know, my experience is that if you show people you can do it, then they'll open doors for you everywhere. So.
And what kind of inspirational message you want to leave with people that are going to be watching this interview afterwards?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, I'm one of those lucky people that gets to do what I love, and it makes my life good. I think it's good to do things you love to do because it makes your life good. That's what I'd say.
And do you have a website that you want to leave that people can come check, and then possibly even an email on there that if someone wants to send some questions to ask you about, you know, your play This Is War or East Berlin or other projects that you're working on?
Yeah, you can find me on both Facebook and Twitter. I'm on both under my name. It's really easy to find me. I'm out there. So.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.